when the lights come down and I leave the stage, it's you that makes it all worthwhile.
Good evening, everyone, and we'd like to welcome you to our episode of Heart.
I'm here.
We have two wonderful guests with us. Mr. Bud Collier out of Texas, and Mr. Edward James Hubbard, who is now a resident of Florida, who just moved to Florida from West Virginia. Gentlemen, very, very honored to have you on the show today, and with Bruce Shepard hosting with me today. Mr. Mike Aloia, my partner, is on the road traveling in Atlanta, Georgia, and doing many shows out there for the next couple of days. So we welcome you all, and gentlemen, proud to have you on the show.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Bruce, and thank you, Edward. That was Bud.
Okay, my name's Ed. This is Edward from I Am Bully Free, Director of News Media. I want to say thank you to Pete and Bruce for allowing me and Bud Collier on the show.
Well, it's an honor to have both of you. And why don't you start off? Bud, why don't you tell them about the Bear Bully organization that you're doing, and then Edward, get you to tell them a little bit about what you've gone through as a victim too, as well. So,
is that for me or?
Yeah, Bud, you want to tell us, our viewers,
yeah.
Tell them the organization what you're doing. Very proud of the work you're doing.
Well, I'm Bud Collier, and I'm the director of I'm and we started our organization in March of 2012. We got our 501c3 nonprofit status. And the reason that we started this organization is we started looking out at bullying, harassment, discrimination, all these different things. The big issue is about 4,600 kids are committing suicide every year, and 1,000 kids are doing self-harm. Well, so as we were getting this thing geared up in 2011, my daughter was murdered at Fort Bragg.
My God, I didn't know that, Bud.
Yeah, and
so sorry.
Yeah, and she was 21 years old, and she was out there. Her mother was a veteran. I'm a retired military person. Her mother's hadn't retired yet, and as we're watching this little girl, she was Hispanic and white. You see, I'm a white guy. Her mother was Hispanic, and she looked very white, and none of the little Mexicans would play with her. And as I tell parents, once the child or your child loses their mojo, either by bullying, discrimination, they're going to find people to play with. Well, we assume that she probably started playing with some bad people. But when somebody stabs you 100 times, they don't like you.
So you're saying that she came in the company of some peers that were, wrong crowd, and that caused her to die.
Well, see, the problem, they never found the killer.
Wow.
So, and I've got all kinds of speculation.
I'm so really taken back. But I am so sorry. Now, your daughter was 21 at the time, and she fell as a victim of bullying. Yeah.
She was bullied. She was heavy. She had a cleft lip, and she was Hispanic and white. Looked very white. So she didn't fall in with the Hispanic crowd. And these are what her mother was saying. So, yeah, we don't.
See now. Good. I'm sorry.
Yes. So as I go into the hood to talk to the kids, well, they're looking at me. Okay, old man, you're an old white guy. You worked at NASA. You worked at in the military. What do you have to say? And then you go, well, violence does not care what color you are, how much money you got, or anything like that. It's one of the
totally concur with you on that. Not to do it, but the thought that comes to my mind right here is that this is an issue that needs to be addressed and needs to be awareness big time, because to me, as a metaphor, this is no better than someone going out, like you said, your daughter was murdered. This is no better than someone going out and shooting someone or stabbing someone or whatever. The bullying, when we were kids in school, somebody slammed a locker door on you, or somebody kicked books out of your hand, or put a kick me sign on your back, silly little things like that. But this today has gotten so out of hand, this bullying, that with the internet of abuse on the internet and trolling and demeaning people. Just recently, now I was brought to my attention about this Adriana, this young lady that took her own life, bullying. It was a recent case, and this is happening every day, where you have cutters, You have young people taking their own lives. A young fella from, I think it was about maybe a year ago or 2 years ago from New York, a brilliant, aspiring musician, and he jumped off the George Washington Bridge because he was gay, and they were making fun of him on the internet and really bullying him on the internet, and he took his own life and jumped from the George Washington Bridge. You know, I mean, a child prodigy, a young man that was a brilliant violin player. And it doesn't matter. I don't care what nature, this has to stop. And I'm glad that you two gentlemen are doing the work that you're doing, and you have our full support. Because, Bruce, as you know, you and Mike also are very much for the anti-bullying. And I want to say that whatever I can do to give you people support, and I speak on behalf of Bruce and Mike and Direction of the Heart, that we are in your corner. And again, if I need to come out there and do a show or something to raise funds to keep this great work that you're doing and bring awareness, I'm there. I'm there.
Amen.
People don't realize how deep-seated a lot of bullying groups are, because a lot of them are all gung-ho about their opinions and think that anybody, you know, else has a lesser opinion. And it's all too often you see a lot of this when you have religious people and non-believers, and the non-believers are so egotistical as to where they want to pick on the believers. And the head of the non-believers, I don't know if you heard of Richard Dawkins out there, the God Delusion.
Yes. Yeah.
He goes before, and this is in 2012, it's actually on video out on YouTube, he goes before 10,000 people, called Reason Rally, and he states that you should mock them, ridicule them, in contempt, were his exact words.
This is the disease. This is the sickness.
Exactly, it's a disease.
It's a cancer. It's a malignancy.
You want what? You guys are so right. Sorry, everybody. This is Ed Hubbard. You guys are so right. It is a disease. You know, I'm on the computer, and sometimes I call him my dad, but gets on me about being on the computer because I could get real upset seeing some of the stuff that I see, and I get really fired up about it, you know, because I can't sit there. I can't sit there and be a bystander and let somebody else pick on that person or anything. And
you know, it's understandable so that you're going to get upset, and this is why we're doing this segment on this very topic, because a lot of people are upset, and they should be, and more awareness needs to be drawn to this issue. Now, Edward, you had even sent me some things that there's somebody out there that was on the internet bullying you and putting up untruths and pictures and horrible things. And you see, this is where the internet, you know, you being on the computer all the time, there's nothing wrong with that. The computer has its pros and cons. And the advent of technology, we wouldn't be Skyping right now if we didn't have that, and thanks to people like Steve Jobs and others. But the thing is that there are those that use it for evil. You got the pedophiles, you got the bulliers, you got all of these things. This is a malignancy. It is a cancer. And there has to be attention drawn within our system, our communities, our leaders, councilmen, governors, congresspeople, mayors, all of this.
I think a lot of it comes from the shock effect from cinema. We have all these movies about horror, and we have all these movies about, you know, people playing pranks and stuff. And the thing is, the expectation of the audience now is going for the more extreme type of entertainment. And when they see somebody making fun of somebody on video or something like that, then they all, you know, go and encourage that. It's a sickness to enjoy something like that when you see another person being treated miserably, and, you know, you can't fathom how are they right in the head? How are they rational when they're, you know, going along with the bully?
You know,
one of the things that we see with a young kid that's 10, 11, or 12, we're seeing them commit suicide. They don't understand that's final. You know, they don't really understand that once they hang themselves or take those pills, it's over. They're not coming back. So one of the
Bud, would you like to expound on that? Where we had left off, you were saying about how a lot of the conditions are there in Texas.
Yeah, well, this is Bud again. And as we were talking yesterday, over 4,600 kids in the United States alone commit suicide. Wow. And you see this all the time on YouTube. My kid was bullied, this, and it's all just not about bullying. There's all kinds of other reasons. But my concern, and just like with some of the political figures, is Who's questioning what happened to these kids? Who's investigating why they killed themselves? But one of our biggest initiatives that we have is up in Tampa, Texas on 23 July of this year. The mayor of Tampa is signing a anti-bully proclamation for the city of Tampa. That's one of the first cities that I know of.
Is that the bill that you were talking about, Edward? Bully 40 or something?
No, that's a different bill.
Okay, that's a different one. All right.
So this is the city doing it, and I've had conversations with the superintendent from Tampa ISD, and supposedly they're all going to show up in a coordinated effort. And as we'll see in time who in that little town.
Let's hope to God they do, because you see, this is a good point.
Y'all hear?
Audio went out?
Okay, it's back. Go ahead.
I can hear you guys. All right. This was my point yesterday. That the concern from those that sit in power, whether it be a councilman, congressman, mayor, people within the community, even school faculty. This is the reason that young lady that just recently took her own life was because the school said, "Oh, you're acting like a baby," and was very passive about her being bullied. Now, just last night, I've seen on the news another one where these kids were ganging up on this one girl, taking her, beating her, and they got it on camera. And I mean, this is extreme violence.
Now, the question I got for you, Pete, and for you, Bruce, and for you, Bud, how is this kid acting like a baby by sitting there reporting that she's getting bullied? Now, if some people would sit there and get bullied, wouldn't you expect them to go to the principal or go to the teacher? I hear so many things every day from somebody. If they go to a teacher and report it, they're saying quit being a baby or just be quiet and stuff. Don't worry.
I came across something exactly of that nature on social media, on YouTube, on a very popular channel called The Young Turks. This one guy says that kids should be bullied so it toughens them up. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the mentality.
That's absolutely no respect for the person that is being, victimized because some person can't control themselves.
Very good point, Bruce. Because you see, it's that kind of a mentality or a mind.
Pete, your mic went out.
I don't. All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right, that kind of a mentality or mindset is the very reason.
My mic's okay.
Pete, your mic's cutting in and out. Edward, can you mute your mic when you're not speaking, please?
What my point was is it's that kind of a mindset, okay? And when people think like that, as you just said, Bruce, that is why this disease continues. And that is my answer to you, Edward, that they are just passing it off. If someone broke into your home and you call the police, what are they going to do? Say, "Oh, stop being a baby, just get better locks on your door"? You see?
They did eyeshadows with the color.
That's basically what they're doing, is passing it off. They don't care.
They're rationalizing the excuse to do it by saying, "Well, you need to toughen up." Well, wait a minute. Not everybody is, gung-ho soldier.
Yeah.
I mean,
but see, this is the problem.
They live.
It's got a title. Major. It's complacency. That's what it is. Yeah. Major complacency.
Exactly.
But see, this is the problem, you guys, and this is the huge problem. When somebody sits there and defends themselves, guess who gets in trouble? It ain't the bully that's getting in trouble. It's that kid getting in trouble. Now, I have a gentleman that his name is Kurt, and he has a nonprofit called Silent. And what happened was his son finally defended himself against the bully. And what happened is his son got sent home. When his son got sent home and everything, and his mom had some chores for him to do and stuff like that, but the chores weren't done. And when she got home, she went to check everywhere, and what he did is grab his dad's shotgun from the gun shelf and sit there and took his life.
See what I'm saying? And violence like that only begets more violence. It's a disease that this person wound up taking their own life. And you know, I mean, I'm not about fighting. I'm not about violence. But when someone has to defend themselves against people ganging up on them, what other recourse did they have? I'll give you an example. This is a story. My own brother, God rest his soul, he passed away, my oldest brother, that is, when he was younger, and this was years ago, was on a school playground, and a bunch of kids pinned him down. They had his hands and his legs down, and they were, you know, roughing him up. So he bit him. My father got called to school because he bit the kid, and he said, oh, you know, a human bite is worse than a dog bite. My father looked the principal right in the eye and says, I want to know if you had 4 or 5 people had you pinned down, that you had no use of your arms or legs or hands to defend yourself, what would you do? He says, stop. He says,
Edward.
Yes.
Please mute your mic. You got a lot of background noise.
Yeah, a lot of static there. All right. So, and my dad looked the principal right in the eye at that point and says, well, what would you do if they had you pinned down? You couldn't use your hands or your legs to defend yourself. And the principal said, I'd probably kick him in the groin. My father looked at him and said, I rest my case. And he walked out.
That's a good place to start so they don't make another one.
My point being is, if someone is going to come in and try and do harm to your wife, your children, your pets, whatever, you're damn well straight you're going to defend yourself. All right? And now why should they, and this happens with rape victims, all of a sudden they're the one that's on trial instead of the perpetrator. Okay? This happens with the bullying. The one that's being bullied, if they defend themselves, they're the bad guy. Or they wind up taking their own life. Because
one problem is there's not enough attentiveness going to the bully as to find out what's causing him to do this. Because it's a very sick world that anyone enjoys that kind of venue and calls it entertainment when somebody is picking on another kid. Like this one thing that happened recently about these teenagers got this young man that had Down syndrome, and they poured urine and feces on him off of the top of a garage in a garbage can, just poured it all over him in the driveway.
Well, you know,
that was for the ice bucket challenge.
Yeah, he thought it was an ice bucket challenge.
Yeah, see, this is the heinous crimes that people do to someone that is defenseless, mentally challenged, all right? Now, I have a gentleman...
You remember the kids that were taunting the 70-year-old lady on the bus up in New York?
Yeah.
Yes,
a few years back?
Yep.
And the little kids, she made like $700,000 off of a Google page, and she gave it back to the anti-bully community.
Yep, I remember that.
Well, just recently, one of the kids that apologized, don't quote me on this, but there was an article that he was caught flushing a special needs kid's head and put it in a urinal. See? So there's that little bully that turned right around, and there was no consequences other than, I'm sorry.
Let me ask everybody a question based on that. Do you think that bullying might come from a personality disorder, that the child feels neglected, so he's going to act out and do something to get some attention? And the thing is, other kids are the same way, and they see one kid doing something bad by mistreating another kid, and they find joy in it because they have that same sociopathic, personality disorder.
You know, Bruce, that's an excellent point, because it's a number of things. You can have a bunch of kids hanging out and rolling with who's the kingpin bully, and they think it's cool, and they become the peer pressure, and they join in. All right? Yeah. You have other cases where some of these people that are bullying were victims themselves. Maybe they were bullied by their mom or their dad or someone, and then they go out and they start bullying. And this happens many times with rapists, with serial killers. Right? They were victims, so they go out and they start taking their anger and rage out on others, and they bully. All right? Or they get it at home, the prejudice, the hatred. It's taught to them that you're not born that way, and you're not going to go out and do sick things like that. I'll give you an example. In 1991. I came to bat for young men. It was a news story, and I was just appalled when I heard this young fella came from Haiti, living in Brooklyn, New York with his family, going to school every day. They picked on him. They took his lunch money, this and that. Make a long story short, they beat him with a baseball bat because he said no to drugs. He did what he was taught. He did the right thing. And they beat him with a baseball bat, and if that wasn't enough, they set him on fire. 55% of his body was burned.
See, and to Pete, that's not bullying. That is aggravated assault.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's like the ultimate. Yeah.
And see, that's the thing. Once you get to a certain age, and you got to look at what that crime was, and then it's not bullying anymore. Mm-hmm. See, you can turn this bully concept into anything and downplay it. Right. And but when 4 kids jump your kid and beat the crap out of him, that's not bullying anymore. That's right. Assault and battery.
Oh yeah, this is definitely assault and battery. And they got the kids; they were young, so they couldn't try them as adults. But you know, bottom line, you know, he suffered emotionally. He suffered. They had skin grafting and everything. And I met the young man. I threw a telethon and had a lot of great stars there and raised a lot of money for the family. And that was by the grace of God. The glory goes to God that I jumped in and said, this kid should be hailed as a hero because he stood up and did what he was told and said no to drugs, and look at the price he paid. That's the world we're living in. And that was back in '91. So you can see how it's gotten worse. It's like a rampant forest fire that, you know, the bullying, and like you said, but that goes to, look at what happened to your daughter. That was murder. That's even worse than aggravated assault. And these people, you know, I mean, this is just, something has to be done, and they've got to pass a law and a bill because they're getting away with it. And if you just slap
this is what we see in the schools. See, a lot of times, can y'all hear me?
Yep.
A lot of times in the schools, when that kid calls the police, nobody shows up to help that kid. And then schools hide. We see that all the time, don't we?
Mike, your
what's going on?
Mic went out again.
My mic?
Yeah, okay. I don't know why it keeps going in and out like that.
That's really weird. Because
did y'all hear my last statement?
But anyway,
yeah, go ahead, Bud, and repeat what you said.
Yeah, what you had said, Bud.
But the scenario is, if we're at Walmart and somebody attacks me, you call the police, somebody will show up, potentially. Right. But in schools, a lot of times when that kid's attacked by 3 or 4 kids and they call the police, nobody shows up. They go, "Oh, that's a school matter." The police won't even talk to them.
Well,
they're supposed to respond.
I know here in Jacksonville, Florida, there are police cars outside of every school in Jacksonville daily, and they're waiting there for anything to go down.
Yeah, because, you know, there's shootings, there's people putting bombs. So, you know, what would they do? There's a bomb scare, there's a shooter, you know, on the premises. What are they going to do? Say, well, that's a school matter? They're supposed to respond to it. You never know what could be happening. So, see, this again is...
One of the things that we tell the parents after anything happens with your kids, especially if it's on the violent side, and somebody's laid hands, you call the police, and you get that reported. Now, if something happens to your kids, everybody's held accountable.
Yep.
And what we're seeing across the country is nobody's documenting this appropriately. So you run up to the school and you go, "Hey, my kid's getting bullied, my kid's getting bullied." And then when something happens to your kid, you go, "Well, we don't have any documented proof of that." Right, Edward?
Yeah. Bud, you have an excellent point there.
Yes, you're right.
You have an excellent point, because even if somebody threatened bodily harm, that should be reported immediately. You don't wait till after the fact that later down the road maybe they possibly do try and do something. So you report it right away. Absolutely.
Okay.
Bud, you're breaking up there.
Yeah, for some reason, I don't know. I don't think it's on my end.
Hey guys, we got about 5 more minutes into the rest of this episode. Why don't we go ahead and give our final thoughts on this subject, and I'll get this together and splice it together with the other one, and we'll have a
Let me ask Edward something. Edward, you mentioned, what was it, a congresswoman or a councilwoman that you know in Georgia that's going to try and pass the bill you were talking about?
Yes, State Representative Keisha Waits, who has mine and Bud's back 100%. She has been working on a bill called Bill 40. And what this bill is basically the same thing that Bud says. It's another bully law. And what's kind of funny is with this bully law, everybody tries to pass another law, but nothing's we actually talk and say nothing's getting done or anything.
Well, see, this is it. They need to not only pass the law, they need to enforce the law.
See, that's the problem, Pete. Is nobody's in. Every state has a bully law. I've read them all. But see now, next week when I get back from Canyon Lake, I'm meeting with Keisha because she's down in Houston because she works for FEMA with all this devastation. So we're going to have a working dinner and talk about that bill. And
sometimes you go here. Come here.
Edward, microphone, please.
Charlie, I'm walking out the door. You gonna stay here? Okay, we'll be right back. We're not gonna be gone long at all.
Some kind of interference there.
Out here. Out here. Look, if you go to Wi-Fi.
Hang on a second, Edward. Hang on a second.
Yes.
Please, the microphone. We got background noise.
All right, now, yeah, there was interference coming from somewhere. But all right, so yeah, that's great, Bud, that you're going to be meeting with her.
Yeah, but she's, you know, we see this all the time. The governor passes a law. This person passes a law, but nobody audits that school.
They don't enforce it. Exactly. Well, you know, we could always go on to Washington, D.C. and do a peaceable, I don't know if you want to call it a march or whatever, but to be heard, and I get the media and the press there on it. Anything that involves children and human life, the press and media will be all over.
Pete, I've been to the state capitol.
Okay, and nothing.
I've been to the state capitol twice, but I'm only 3. And we've never had a congressman, a state representative even show up. And we've been on the Capitol steps and all.
I wanted to say this about this.
You want to know what the problem? Hey, you want to know what the problem is? Because Keisha Waits asks me this question. She's like, Ed, what else can I do? I'm doing everything I can do, but none of my people will listen or anything, or none of them will take a stand or anything against this. The problem is that a lot of us need to work together, and keep on working together and get more people involved in this and everything, because suicide keeps on raising.
But going back to what you were just saying, being there on the Capitol steps and not even one of them congressmen showed up, what we need to do is rattle their cage and smoke them out in a peaceable way, because they call me a peaceful warrior, but in a peaceable way, but we gather together and we get the press and media there, and they know how to call on people for votes, right? Oh, yeah, let's do that.
One good way to open up some eyes and some ears is to put it this way, guys.
You're going to want to have bad press and media on them.
Yeah, but put it this way, guys. The best way to open up the eyes and ears of the media is to tell them this, that right now in America, animals have more rights than human beings, because if somebody mistreats an animal, they get fined or jail time.
Yeah, SPCA.
If a person mistreats another person, a child to a child, nothing.
Yeah, you're right.
At school, nothing happens. Down in Texas, you can't even sue a superintendent. Sovereign immunity. I don't know about different states.
Yeah, and this is why they're getting away with even sexually molesting students and things like that, because there's not anything being done about it. And one of the ways I believe is that we got to rattle their cage and get the press and media on this, because they're not going to want to get bad press and media.
Pete, on 23 July in Pampa, Texas, 23 July in Pampa, Texas, supposedly the news is going to be there. And if the state representative from that county doesn't show up, and the school superintendent, then we got a national audience.
Because you know what? If they don't show up, shame on them. And
I was at dinner last night.
Say again, bud.
Hey guys, we're gonna have to wrap this up here. How about everybody giving their final thoughts on this subject and what we need to do?
Yeah, but give our viewers where they can contact website, everything. That Edward do also. Bud, go ahead.
Bud, you there?
Bud, are you there?
I'm there.
Okay, give out where people can contact you and the Bully Bear organization. Give them the links.
Our website is I'mBullyFree.org, and my number I'mBullyFree.org, and my number is 713-478-3049. And you can call me anytime, and if I can't help you, Edward will help you, and we got a series of people that can get back with you.
Right.
And What we do different than the rest of the world is I audit their handbook and what the state law says, and then I tell you what your rights are. And when you go on
that note, do you have like a suicide hotline that, let's say, somebody can call in for support?
No, see, we're not the suicide prevention people, so we send them to the suicide hotline guy, the 1-800 number.
Okay. All right. Well, you can include me in there if you need me, because I've talked to people on the phone many times and can counsel them, life coaching them. And you know, you have Mike, Aloia, and Bruce. You have Bruce Shepard and Mike Aloia and my support wholeheartedly. Anything we can do. And as I said, if you want to do a fundraiser, you need me for any of these events, let me know. Edward, why don't you give them contact information where they can contact you?
Well, I'm having problems with him. Okay, very good.
Okay.
There you go, Edward. Give us your contact information.
Yep.
Okay, my contact information is iambullyfree.org with Bud Collier, and also United Together. We take a huge stand against bullying. Also, my telephone number is 304-881-5582. I'm director of news media for iambullyfree.org.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap for the show. We apologize for all of the inconveniences of the technical difficulties, but hey, this makes for a good log for somebody to say, hey, dear Skype, we have a problem.
Well, Bruce, despite the technicalities, you did a wonderful job. And gentlemen, Edward and Bud, want to thank you for coming on the show. And let's keep up the good work, and let's put a stop to this.
Absolutely.
God bless everybody.
God bless everybody.
Peace and love.